Dark fantasy is a genre that has captivated the imaginations of many. This genre is large, and it's kind of hard to pinpoint the exact tenets of what makes something truly dark fantasy. But despite that, I would say that most people have a general vibe or sense of what dark fantasy is. So, for the sake of this video, I'm going to be turning my OC Dane into a dark fantasy character in the likes of media such as Fromsoft games like Elden Ring and Dark Souls, or games like The Witcher. I'm going with this particular strain of dark fantasy primarily because of their more realistic styles. Obviously, this is a very small section of what is considered dark fantasy, but it's the one I'll be using because, as I mentioned in a previous video, the main reason I wanted to do this was because I think it will be really interesting to take my usual style with characters that I make to be relatively easy to redraw over and over again, and I will reinterpret their design. This character is now going to be 3D modeled in a realistic style and probably animated with motion capture or something along those lines. I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of fun in adding all the little details I always want to when designing the characters, so let's not put it off any longer. Because I'm attempting a more grounded, realistic style for this, the first thing I want to do is find some real armor that I can use as a springboard to rework Dane's original armor, which is, here's a picture. Wow, ooh and ah, please. For Dane's original armor, I'm using a lot of big shapes, and you'll probably notice there's not a lot of common armor design choices like fluting and articulation around the joints. So I want to be thinking about that, looking at how that actually works, because for this design, I can really maximize the details and the protection that the armor should and could provide in a more realistic way. In this stage, I'm keeping the design relatively grounded, and later on, I'll think of ways to bring in a few more dark fantasy elements. But the first thing that I start to lean into the fantasy aesthetic is the pauldrons. Oh, sorry, I hit the table. The reason that I'm starting with the pauldrons is in Dane's original design, the pauldrons are what I would consider the centerpiece or the most iconic part of his design. Because of this, I want them to still be quite large, but I'm adding a few different ways of articulation. That's neither what I've done before for his design, and also not particularly based off of any armored pauldron style that I've seen, though it would be kind of cool to see that there was something like this, because I think the design's pretty cool, but you know, that's me. So I thought it would be a cool way to bring in fantasy to his design. They can really be like almost a centerpiece. So I'll explain the actual idea for the pauldron. What I'm working on for him right now is a pauldron in 3 sections. The large middle piece that covers his shoulders, the bottom piece that covers his upper arm, and when raids, folds into the middle piece, and the top piece that I'll admit is mostly for decoration, though like for the bottom piece it too has some articulation making it more malleable, so it will hopefully not impede movement and, you know, still look pretty cool. In the original design, the armor was made so that I could redraw it many times. I wouldn't consider it exactly animation friendly, but I would say it's at least not too bad for a comic setting, which I'm hoping to do eventually. Soon enough, I moved on to the next round of sketching. And when I was making this, I was trying to uncover what Dane's story would be if it was translated into a setting like Elden Ring, which I'll use as my main example since I'm the most familiar with that game. So here's what I came up with as we're looking at the speed paint. Dane is a traveling knight. At least that's what it seems he is. If you spend time with him at his fire pit, you may get the sense that he's running from something. His eyes always seem to linger behind his steps. It's difficult to get anything out of him about his past. But aside from his quiet demeanor, his campsite makes for a welcome respite and a friendly enough face once you get past the more threatening aspects of his design. The armor is primarily white and gold, a strange combination that seems a little too bold for this land. What's more is the armor is broken in many places, only fused back together with a strange golden substance, which, if you manage to snag a glance under his visor, you may notice matches the hue of his eyes. In this second round of design ideation, I wanted to work on more fantastical elements. I think that the cracks filled with gold help, but I decided to forego the bassinet/armet helm that I typically draw for Dane, and instead opt for a sallet helmet. Am I saying that right? Actually, wait 1 second. I actually have never heard anybody say sallet. Okay, I was saying it right. Good. I quite like sallets, and I think it makes the helmet look more unique, which is kind of funny considering Dane's original helmet was mostly made up and the sallet was very popular. But I really liked that because I noticed that in a lot of dark fantasy, armor typically has pretty interesting and unique helmets. So I really wanted it to stand out in this design. Other than the helmet though, I added a deep red cape, so it's not just swaths of white. And also because its color makes the wearer seem a little more threatening, and I was kind of going for like, I don't know, it adds a little bit of mystery, especially when I look at his armor and there's like, in the few places where you can see cloth, it's that same scarlety red, and I don't know, something about it feels vulnerable to me, and I like that. All right, we're on to the final piece. I wanted his whole design to be shown, so I was finding it pretty hard to find the right composition and pose. A standing pose just didn't seem very dynamic to me. I considered doing a fireside scene, but I figured that there would be too many obstructions to his design if I was doing that, and like, I don't know, it wasn't what I was going for. In the end, I decided to put him on a horse, traveling through some village. Drawing the figure actually went pretty smoothly, and the inking, of course, took quite a bit of time, as it typically does, but I generally enjoy the inking part of the process, so that doesn't really bother me. So overall, I think that the pose and the base flats and the figure look good, and the inking. And then for the background, I did something that's sort of similar to grayscale, but I just used the same like general color for the whole thing. It's like maroon-ish color, but it's like kind of gray. I'm not really sure what the right word for that would be. So those parts look all right. The problem I think I have with this piece is the lighting just feels a little off for me. In retrospect, it would look better if there was something Dane was looking at, but I don't think a person would make sense with the setting, so I'm not sure. Maybe there's something off screen. I did a version with the area above Dane's head extended and the area below his knee cut off, and I think that improves the composition a little. Also, it's pretty yellow-orange, which is not the worst thing. I tend to like that, but it just seems like I've been doing that a lot with Dane recently. So I did do a version with the shadows more blue. I'm still not like completely happy with it though. Maybe at some point I'll like completely redo the lighting, or not. It probably sounds like I don't like this piece, but that's not really true. I find it easier to pick out things that I don't like than what I do like, and it's really frustrating when the final stage of the project I don't like. So I may re-render it at some point. Maybe, probably not, unfortunately. Genuinely, I did enjoy drawing this, and just the designing, it was really fun. It's a little out of my comfort zone. I think if I was to do this again, I would continue adding more ornamentation. I think I could have gone a little more crazy with the fluting. I probably could have added like some sort of relief thing, like just a minor relief not carvings. Well, I mean, I don't remember what it's called. I'm sure you understand what I mean. I'll probably have pictures up too. It was really very fun, and I'd love to try this with other genres and other characters. I really enjoyed doing this exercise, and I hope you all enjoyed it too, and have a great day. Bye!